Welcome to Coach Bennett's podcast, where every run has a purpose, where kindness is hardcore, where this is about running, and this is not about running, where every starting line is a finish line in disguise, where rambling still gets you where you need to be, where pineapple will never ruin your pizza, and the sodas, adult and not adult kind, are always cold, and where there is room on the starting line for everybody. I'm Coach Bennett. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 62 of Coach Bennett's podcast. This one is called Confidence, and I am confident that this is going to be a great episode. Why am I so confident? Well, we'll get into why I'm so confident a little bit later when we talk about confidence, but I will give you a little sneak peek about why I'm so confident, and that's because I'm recording this in a hotel room. Now, if you're a longtime listener of Coach Bennett's podcast, if you're a consistent listener to Coach Bennett's podcast, then you know, for whatever reason, when I record an episode in a hotel room, it tends to be fire. And I don't know why, but it just is what it is. And I'm in Minneapolis right now, and I'll tell you what, before last night, I had never been outside of the Minneapolis airport. So I had obviously flown in to Minneapolis a number of times, and I'll tell you what, most of the time, I'm delayed there because of thunderstorms and snow in New Jersey. I'm not going to blame New Jersey because New Jersey is the land of milk and honey. But I will say there's always a little bit of anxiety when I have to land in Minneapolis because I'm like, is this plane going to take off? The next one, am I going to be late? I didn't have to worry about it last night because I was leaving the airport and heading to downtown Minneapolis. Now, you may be wondering, or maybe you're not. You're going to get the answer anyway. Why are you in Minnesota? I'll tell you why I'm in Minnesota, because I get to help out with Mill City Running, which is a badass running specialty store here in Minneapolis, with their last track session, their last speed work session of the summer with their race team. Now, they're going to have like 200, 250 people at this tonight. I'm super excited. I love live events. I love them. I absolutely love them. So I'm really pumped to actually get to help out. And Mill City Running is obviously one of the great running specialty stores in the world. So I'm really pumped to help them out any way they see fit. Now, the bonus of this is I get to record this episode in a hotel room. So why else am I fired up? Because I feel like I sound fired up as I'm listening to myself. Have you ever listened to yourself and you're like, am I out of control right now? I feel like I might be a little out of control. But guess what? It's good to get out of control every once in a while. And if you've run with me, you know that I say it's really important to be in control. Well, that's true. But sometimes it's good to be out of control. You know, I think it was the great Dr. George Sheehan who said, sometimes in life, you gotta go berserk. I love that. So before I headed to the PDX airport, the Portland International Airport yesterday, I was a little bit, anxious because I didn't want to be late for my flight, but the men's 1500 was about to start at the Olympics in Paris. And I'll tell you what, this men's 1500 is the most anticipated men's 1500 for me in my life. It's the one I've been looking forward to more than any other 1500 or mile in my entire life. Now, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but I will put a link up to the race in the show notes. You need to see it. It's not just the best 1500 or mile I've ever seen. It's the best race I've ever seen. And if you're lucky enough to know the context around this race and the players in this race, you're going to understand why. So I'm going to put the link up in the show notes. You need to watch it. In fact, just watch it now and then come back to the episode and listen to the episode. But it's truly the best race I've ever seen. And I think I'm probably going to dedicate an episode either on here or to Coach Bennett's Talking. Yeah, we feel like we need to start that one back up about the Olympics and some of the races and highlights and backstories that we loved, that we were a part of, that we got emotional over, that we're going to remember for the rest of our lives. And it won't just be track and field. It'll obviously be heavily track and field, but we're obviously going to talk about more than just track and field because the Olympics are about more than track and field, and the Olympics are about more than just the Olympics, right? There you go. So check out the link for the 1500. I'll also tell you this. The women's 15 final may be better than the men's. It has the potential. It's got the backstories. So if you know the context, you know what I'm talking about. The women's 15 may be even better. And we've been so lucky because track and field at the Olympics in 2024 has been going off every single session. Some of it is the crowd, I'll tell you that. The morning sessions and the afternoon sessions, they're getting 70, 75,000 people for each session. And I'll tell you what, track geeks, this is how you do it. You get up, you cheer, you wave your flags, you do your rhythmic clapping, you yell for every lap when they come by you. Learn from the Paris crowd. If you give everything you've got to the athletes on the track, there's a better chance those athletes are going to give back just as much or more. I'm telling you what, stop sitting on your hands. Stop treating it like it's a golf match or whatever it is. Get up and yell. These athletes that are trying to throw, jump, run, hurdle as best as they possibly can, they need you. Yes, you are a part of the event. When you are a fan at a track and field meet, you are not separate. You are a part of it. If you want to see greatness, well then guess what? Why don't we let it start with us? In the crowd, the fans. Let's be the greatest fans we can be. And I'll tell you what, to the fans that are there in Paris, you're setting a new standard. This is the best crowd I've ever seen at a track and field meet. It doesn't matter if it's the preliminary rounds or an Olympic final. It doesn't matter if it's somebody who's throwing to try to bump up from 15th to maybe 12th. They are cheering for everyone. And as a result, you're seeing greatness every single day at the Olympics. So make sure you're watching the rest of the Olympics. And there we go. So I guess I'm just really fired up. I'm still fired up. The halo around that men's 15. Woo, baby. All right. This episode is about confidence. It makes sense when you're watching the Olympics every single day. At some point, you're going to have a conversation with someone. It may even just be a conversation with yourself about confidence. So this is something that I talk about a lot. This is something I coach about a lot. I have lots of conversations with my athletes, especially when I was coaching younger athletes about confidence and what confidence is. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter what level you're at. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing a sport. Confidence is always a conversation you need to have if you're an athlete. It doesn't matter the sport, doesn't matter the level. It's a conversation that you need to have, and you're probably going to need to have over and over again. Because confidence isn't something that just is. Confidence is something you need to work on. Confidence is something you want to have, but it's not something that you get to keep. You need to work to have it. You don't just get it. Because I think it's important to understand what confidence really is. Because when you're around sports the way that most people are, which let's just say, you're probably most around sports at the highest level. It's on TV. You're watching it on your phone. You're watching it on your computer. You're reading about it in the news. There's headlines of what the athletes are doing. Commentators, some of them are the worst. Just the way they talk about sports and this person being absolutely fearless and this person having absolute confidence and this person having no confidence. And you can really misconstrue what confidence actually is. And if you get down to it, what confidence really fundamentally is, as far as I'm concerned, confidence, the key to it is respect. And it's respect for your own abilities and accomplishments. That's what confidence is. It's respect for your own abilities and confidence. Too often we think confidence is about no fear. Confidence is about believing you 100% are going to hit the shot, which would make you think the person has no fear because they can't even imagine the prospect of missing it, right? Or they don't care if they miss it. I don't think any of that is true for the greatest athletes or even a new athlete that's supremely confident. I don't think when an athlete takes a shot, there's no possibility that they're going to miss. Of course there's a possibility that they're going to miss. Pick a sport. I mean, I love baseball. You have a Hall of Fame career if 70% of the time you head back to the dugout because you did not get a hit 7 out of 10 times. That's what gets you into the Hall of Fame. You're the greatest three-point shooter in the WNBA if you're shooting less than 45%. So you miss half your shots. You're the greatest three-point shooter in the WNBA. So don't tell me every time they shoot, they think they're going to make it. No, every time they shoot, they think they've got a shot at making the shot, but they don't think they're going to make it every single time. And if they do, okay, then that means they're disappointed 50% of the time. So it's not about guarantees. Confidence begins with the word respect, and it's a respect for your own abilities and accomplishments. That's why it's so hard to be confident, because almost all of us do not have respect for our own abilities, do not have respect for what we've accomplished. Because if you respect your accomplishments, if you respect your abilities, that brings in a whole lot of other things. Or I should say, demands a whole lot of other things, like trust. If you respect your abilities, if you respect your accomplishments, if you are in fact confident, that's going to demand trust. Trust in your coach. Trust in your training. Trust in yourself. None of these things are easy, which is why it's not easy to be confident. Well, now actually let's talk about what it means to not be confident. And I think the word that pops up, at least for me, is the word doubt. Now, I'm going to open up the dictionary. I mean, come on, give me a break. Don't act surprised, and don't roll your eyes. You know you love this part, because guess what? I hear from all of you. I know you love the dictionary part. You may be someone who's trying to still act cool, like you're in the back of class, like, I don't care about learning. Yes, you do. You absolutely care about learning. Embrace the fact that you're a nerd. Nerds are the best, because a nerd is just code for someone who's passionate about something, and you should be a lifelong student. Okay, I'm going to get down from the front of class right now, but it's true. So let's start with the definition of doubt. Okay, first definition of doubt: to be uncertain about, consider questionable or unlikely, to hesitate to believe. Okay, I'm a fan of that. That makes sense to me. Doubt, to be uncertain about, consider questionable or unlikely, hesitate to believe. The second definition of doubt: to distrust. Oh, baby. I don't know what it is about second definitions. I love me my second definitions. The second definition of doubt: to distrust. Now, let's figure out what the definition of distrust is. Well, it's a verb, okay? To regard with doubt or suspicion, have no trust in. Okay. Well, let's just keep pulling this thread, okay? To have no trust in. Well, let's define trust, shall we? We shall. Reliance on the integrity, strength, ability of a person or thing. Confidence. Oh, baby, did that just happen? It happened. Sometimes it just works out that way. I'm telling you, I didn't plan it that way. I just put these things together, and I think, it just makes sense to me that, a lack of confidence starts with doubts. Let's see what doubts means. Okay. To distrust. Well, let's figure out what distrust means. Okay. Let's figure out what trust means. And then there it is. The definition of trust: reliance on the integrity, strength, ability of a person or thing. Got it. Confidence. Oh, did they really just put confidence in to the definition of trust. They did. So shall we once again tie this little bow? We will. Trust and confidence. You have to have those two words together. They're family. I don't know if they're cousins, siblings, maybe they're partners. I'm not sure. The point is they travel together. Confidence and trust. So if you want to be a confident runner, or shall I say this is about running, this is not about running? Shall I sneak that in now? I think I just did. Okay. If you want to be a confident runner, start with that word trust. You need to trust yourself. You need to trust your coach. And that's one of the reasons why I say repeatedly, a coach cannot lie. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I say it all the time. A coach cannot lie. All right? Because the relationship between a coach and an athlete is totally dependent on trust. Now, if you want to look at it from a coaching perspective real quick, I guess we'll just do this now. Let's just do this now. Okay, I'm not going to wait until later. If you look at it from a coach's perspective, one of the hardest parts of our job is convincing you, the athlete, you're capable of doing something that you haven't done before, or you don't believe you can do again. So think about that. Think about it from our perspective. We've seen the training. We know where you're at. And yes, your goal is to break 28 minutes in the 5K. You've never done it before. You've never broken 30 minutes in the 5K. We're looking at the training. We know you can do it now. But for the athlete, you're usually the last one to know. And you know when you usually figure it out? After you do it. You cross the finish line. I did it. I knew I could do it. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. We've been battling with you for weeks to let you know you can. So you can get to the starting line confident that you can. But all too often for an athlete, they're only confident they can after they've done it. That's where the confidence sometimes comes in. And it's just the fact that, yeah, you were capable of doing it and everything worked out, but geez, could you imagine if you knew on the starting line as opposed to found out on the finish line what you were capable of? So from a coach's perspective, our hardest job isn't getting you to the starting line to do something. It's getting you to the starting line knowing you can do something. That's dependent on trust, though. So if we lie to you all the time and then we tell you you can break 30 minutes in the 5K, well, you're not going to believe us. Why would you believe us? You know what I mean? You can't lie to an athlete. And you can't lie to an athlete sometimes and expect them to believe you consistently. Because you can't be inconsistently trustworthy. You're either trustworthy or you're not. It's not one of those things. The greatest qualities in life have to be the greatest qualities consistently. You can't love someone inconsistently. You can't trust someone inconsistently. Like, that's just not how it works. So the point here is, from a coaching perspective, that word trust, absolutely essential to coaching someone successfully, because the athlete has to trust you. And if they trust you, they're going to be more likely to trust their training and what the training is telling them. Now, here's that other aspect. The athlete has to be able to trust themselves. So the athlete has to be honest with themselves. I'll tell you what, no one lies to you more than you lie to yourself. I'm just letting you know. It's not a fun one to tell people, but nobody lies to you more than you lie to yourself. I mean, just break it down. How many times are you struggling during the day or during a week or a month or a year, and you just tell yourself you're fine? Because it's easier. It's easier to just be like, I'm not struggling. I'm not tired. I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. I'm not resentful. I'm not frustrated. I'm not confused. I'm not injured. I'm not sick. BS. Yeah, you are. And when you don't admit the truth, when you lie to yourself, you start to trust yourself less and less. And when you need to trust yourself, like on a starting line, and you tell yourself, I'm ready, you're going to doubt whether or not you're truly ready. What's the definition of doubt? Well, if you rewind to the beginning, you would have heard me say the definition of doubt is to be uncertain about, consider questionable or unlikely, hesitate to believe. So on that starting line, when you're telling yourself, I'm ready to break 30 minutes in the 5K, you're going to hesitate to believe that because you don't consider yourself trustworthy. That's not how you want to be on the starting line. So you have to be honest with yourself. That's a key. Because I'll tell you what, on a starting line, confidence is made up of two things. It's a respect for and an acknowledgement of your own abilities and accomplishments. That's the definition of confidence, right? That's what it's made up of. A respect for and an acknowledgement of your own abilities and accomplishments. At least that's my Frankenstein definition that I've put together, okay? So just listen to that again. You're on the starting line. You want to be confident. It's made up of two things, a respect for and an acknowledgement of your own abilities and accomplishments. Now think about this. You don't respect the abilities and the accomplishments of a liar, do you? No, because you don't trust that they actually did those things. Now, this isn't about pumping yourself up or telling yourself you can jump over the moon or run faster than a speeding bullet. This isn't about trying to convince yourself that you're someone that you're not. This is about respecting and celebrating who you are. That's what it's about. It's not about lying about who you are. It's about telling the truth. So this isn't about trying to convince yourself that you're someone you're not. This is about respecting and celebrating who you are. It's about humility. It's not about arrogance. Arrogance is let's just go back to the dictionary. It's an offensive display of superiority or self-importance. Okay, that's what arrogance is. Arrogance is an offensive display of superiority or self-importance. Now, synonyms for arrogance are words like insolence and disdain. Disdain is another word for hate. It means to look upon or treat with contempt, despise, scorn. The second definition is to think unworthy of notice or response. Now, you want to talk about mirroring? Oh my goodness. By the way, mirroring is a very hard word to say. Say it right now. Mirroring. 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 Like it just completely falls apart in your mouth. Mirroring. Like by the end, it's just, you can't even do it. What a bizarre word. Anyway, my point is, arrogant people, this is just about a perfect example of mirroring. Because arrogant athletes are looking at their own reflection when they're arrogant. They despise themselves. They lack confidence, which means they lack the ability to respect their own abilities and accomplishments. Insolence, by the way, which was one of the synonyms for arrogance, is a synonym for disrespect. That's what an arrogant athlete does. They disrespect themselves. And as a result, they lash out at everyone around them. They have to puff themselves up in an artificial way because they do not believe they are good enough. So what they need to do is pretend they are greater than they are, because who they really are is not enough in their heads. They lack confidence in who they are. I'll tell you what, if you're watching the Olympics, and again, this is, I watch so many things as a fan, as a coach, and as an athlete. I'm always watching through like 3 sets of eyes, okay? Now, there are athletes in there that you can see do not feel that the success, the excellence of what's happening around them in any way diminishes their own success. They do not think that when the spotlight is on another athlete, that their shine is any less. Those are the most confident athletes. We always think confidence is, results in success, and we think success is defined by what place someone finishes in a race. That the most confident athletes are first, second, and third. Really? Is that how we are looking at this? Because from a coaching perspective, that is utterly asinine to think that confidence is something that is measured by your place Are you for real? Like, if you watch track and field, if you watch the preliminary rounds, what you're going to see are people that are setting personal bests, national records in 8th place, 11th place, 12th place. Are you telling me that the athlete then finishes 23rd overall in the women's 200, who set a national record in the preliminary round and then set a better national record in the next round, but didn't make the final? Okay? Are you telling me she's not as confident as the gold medal winner? Are you for real? This is someone who did the training, showed up at the Olympics, and has 22 athletes faster than she is. And she still goes to the line and runs the best she's ever run. She shows up on the day at the meet and competes to the best of her abilities, surrounded by people that are, at least on paper, better than her, or at least when you're measuring it solely by the clock, better than she is. And yet she shows up and comes up huge. Now, if we're saying that only the top 3 are the most confident, well, does that mean that first place is more confident than third place? Or does that just mean that first place is faster than third place? But maybe third place is way more confident than first place, because maybe if you're trying to like figure out like talent, training, access to coaching, other things going on in their life, how long they've been in the sport, all of these different things, these factors which I assume make a difference, maybe the third place athlete is the most confident athlete in the entire field, because this third place athlete, when you're measuring all of these other things, is the 50th best athlete. I don't know. But if I'm looking at confidence and I'm saying, what confidence really is, which is a respect and an acknowledgement of your own abilities and accomplishments, well, why would just the podium be a representation of the most confident people in the race? Confidence isn't about how fast you are. Confidence is about respecting and acknowledging how fast you are. Confidence isn't about how far you can throw something. Confidence is about respecting and acknowledging how far you can throw something. Do you see what I'm saying? There is confidence in more places than the podium. And I think we have to understand that. And we also have to understand that confidence doesn't show up in the final results. Confidence is there on the starting line before the results. That's where confidence is. The results, the final tally, that just shows how far or how fast you ran a distance. That just shows how far you threw something, how high you jumped, or how quickly you ran a certain distance. That's all those numbers represent. They don't represent how confident you are. Because confidence isn't about meters, minutes, feet, miles, seconds. Confidence is about how much you respect and acknowledge what you've done in those minutes, those meters, those miles. That's what confidence is really about. And to me, the best part about a truly confident athlete is they respect themselves. Like I said, that word that is underneath all of this, that word respect, the athlete respects themselves. The athlete respects what they're trying to do. That athlete respects what they've done. And if you truly respect yourself, you have the capability to respect the people around you. That's what's so great about the Olympics. You're seeing all of these confident people. And I'm not saying everyone there is truly confident, but you can tell the truly confident people respect their competitors. That's how it shows up. It shows up in respect of their competitors. A lot of people think that, it's, a true sign of confidence is disrespecting your competitors. Are you for real? Disrespecting someone comes from a place of fear and inadequacy. So if you see an athlete disrespecting someone. And I'm not talking the fooling around junk talk, okay? That happens. I'm talking about really disrespecting someone. Like, trying to humiliate them, trying to diminish their achievements. I'm not talking about trash talking, okay? Trash talking that goes over the line into disrespect, fine. But if you're an athlete, you know about trash talk. You know about goofing around. You know about that. And the athletes that truly respect each other, they understand the difference between someone who's trash talking in a fun, playful, competitive way and someone who's really trying to be disrespectful. Now, my point here is, if you respect your fellow athletes, you don't diminish them. You don't disrespect them, because that's a sign of an unconfident athlete. You need to bring them down to your level. That's where the arrogant, disrespectful, unconfident athlete is, beneath these other athletes. At least that's what they think. That's what they believe, because there's no reason to disrespect another athlete. Now, I guess you can tell I would rather be working with confident athletes. I would rather be a confident athlete. So I'm going to end here by telling you a couple things you can do to become more confident. Because like I said, this isn't something you are and then always are. You can be a confident athlete and then lose confidence. You can be an unconfident athlete and gain confidence. It's something you can work on, and it's something you will always need to work on. You can always become more confident. Why? Well, let's just go back to that original definition, which is respect for your own abilities and accomplishments. It makes sense that as you increase the amount of abilities you can do, the amount of accomplishments that you've achieved, it opens up the door for being more confident, having more respect for all of those things. So you can always become more confident. Isn't that great? It's just like that idea. It's like you're always good enough to get better. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of people in running misinterpret better with faster. And what I try to remind them is, I'm never, ever, ever going to run a faster mile than I have. Ever. It's just, it's done. That's the fastest mile I've got. That's the fastest mile I've ever done. But I will tell you this, I always have the potential to run a better one. Always. Because there's a lot of different ways to measure your best mile. I bet if I asked all of you, what's the best race you've ever run? Odds are, it's not a personal best. Because I'll tell you what, I've done this. And I would say 20% of the time, I'm making up a number, but it's definitely in the minority. 20% of the time, we'll say, it's the fastest time they've ever run in a certain event. It's usually a race where strategy, tactics, overcoming something is why it's their best race ever. So remember that you're always good enough to get better, and you always have the ability to get more confident, which means whether you're really supremely confident right now or you have very little confidence, you can work on things and become more confident. That's really great to know. Now, let's go back to those words that are the foundation of it, trust. You have to learn how to be honest with yourself. Start there. And I'll tell you what, I know I use this as an answer for a lot of things, but it is the answer to a lot of things. Keep a running log or a running journal or a diary. Call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. But write about your running. And also write about your day. And be honest in there. Be honest. Practice honesty. Because I'll tell you what, if you practice honesty, you know what you're going to be doing? You're going to be consistently being honest. And in that journal, where it's not about pretending that you felt great, it's not about lying that you weren't stressed out that day, it's about being honest. What you're going to do is you're going to be having a conversation. When you're writing about yourself, you're having a conversation with yourself. This is going to help you become a better athlete in so many different ways. But the way we're talking about today is it's going to make you a more trustworthy athlete. And really what you're becoming is a more trustworthy teammate to yourself, a more trustworthy coach to yourself by writing in your journal every day about your running. And by the way, you don't have to run every day to be a runner every day, right? Yes. So you can be writing in a running journal on the days you're not running. because those days have just as much of an effect on your running as the days that you do run. So write about your day. Write about how work was, or school was, or your home life was. All of those different lives that you live come with you to the starting line. It's going to help you learn more about yourself. And when you learn more about yourself, I think you're going to be even more impressed by who you really are. And if you're impressed by who you are, dare I say, you may respect and acknowledge some of those abilities and accomplishments and achievements and things that you've done a little bit more. And guess what that means? You're going to grow in confidence. That's what's going to happen. Also, be honest with your coach. Whether your coach is you or your coach is someone else, be honest with them. When we ask you how you're doing, you know what we want to hear? The truth. That's what we want to hear. Don't tell us you're okay before a run or a workout if you're not okay. It doesn't help anyone, and it sure doesn't help the run. In our head, when we're thinking, what should you do today? We're imagining you're at a mythical standard of excellence. Everything is fine. You slept well, you ate well, you're hydrated, the weather's going to be good, everything's fine. And as the day goes on, we realize, oh, it's a little bit hotter, we're making adjustments. We realize, oh, it's super windy, we're making adjustments. We realize something's going on in the world that is stressing out everybody, we're making adjustments. When we ask you how you're doing, we're ready to make adjustments based on you. You're the most important person in the world when we're asking you, how are you doing? Treat yourself like the most important person in the world and let us know how you're doing. I'm stressed out, coach. I'm really overtired, coach. I'm super sad, coach. I'm really pissed off, coach. Great. Just flip the script a little bit if you don't understand what I'm saying and put yourself in our shoes. You're trying to help someone and you ask how they're doing and they're not doing well at all. And they lie to you and they say they are. And then you advise them based on that. How did you help them? I mean, maybe you helped them a little bit, but you really got nowhere near as much help as you could have given them because you're not talking to a real person right now. They're lying to you. They're not good. So be honest with your coach, okay? If you can do these things consistently, you're going to grow in confidence. And if you go back to what being confident really means, when you're feeling unconfident, guess what you can do? Go back to that journal. Go back to that diary. Go back to your coach or just talk to yourself and start talking about what you've accomplished, what abilities you've worked on. And this works during good training and not so good training. It helps to ground you. One of the most powerful conversations I can have with an athlete is about what they've been doing when things haven't been going well. I know it sounds like weird, because I don't know what's going on, coach. I'm not running well. What's happening? And then we'll sit through a 30-minute conversation. I'll say, well, let's go through some things, okay? You have been tired. You have been stressed out. The running has been affected as a result. The issue isn't that you're not running well. The issue is you're not being honest about what your expectations need to be right now. You are running well considering what we've been doing and what you've been going through. And suddenly it does shine a light on things differently. It's not you coming up short. It's you actually doing the work and experiencing the results. Could you be running faster or further or harder? Yes, if the training was different, if your situations were different that you're going through every day, but they're not. So let's respect the fact that you've gotten over being sick. Let's respect the fact that you had to change jobs. Let's respect the fact that there have been issues at home. And let's acknowledge what you've achieved throughout all of that. And yes, does that now explain a little bit why the running is the way that it is? Yes. It doesn't diminish the running you're doing. What it does is it gives us an honest assessment of where we are and what we can expect. And as a result, you will respect what you're doing. And that leads to confidence, as opposed to a lack of confidence, which in a situation like that, when things aren't going well, being confident about who you are and your training, I'll tell you what, that's massive. That's huge. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. But it starts with being honest. It starts with respect. I get questions all the time about specific workouts, about volume on runs, when to do a tempo run and the distance of a tempo run, or, the benefits of longer intervals and shorter intervals, or more rest or less rest in between those intervals. How many days a week should we be doing, runs that are hilly, and, tell me about double threshold days and zone 2 and all this stuff. And on the other side, I get a lot of people who say, you talk a lot about this stuff that in a lot of ways doesn't have anything to do with running. Like the physical activity of running, which is just, launching yourself into a stride, coming down, taking another stride, I guess. I think that's a lot of times we try to just whittle down running into just these metrics based on strides and steps and power and things like that. And it's fascinating to me that if people got better at things like confidence and self-respect, learning how to run with joy, taking on challenges, being honest with themselves, dealing with fears and anxiety and stress, if people realized how much of successful running has to do with those things that for them don't have anything to do with running, but they have everything to do with running, their running would get better. And not only would their running get better, their running would get better without more running. The running they're already doing would be better running if you were on a starting line and you respected and acknowledged your abilities and your accomplishments. If you were more confident on the starting line. And I'm not saying if you were fearless on a starting line, because I don't think that exists. Or if what was on the other side of the starting line was guaranteed in your mind, because it's never guaranteed. It's never guaranteed what's going to be on the other side of that starting line. What I'm saying is, if you are more confident, which begins with trusting yourself, trusting your coach, trusting your training, respecting and acknowledging your own accomplishments, which will lead to you respecting your competitors, your teammates, the people around you more, which will allow you to be inspired and motivated by yourself and by others, which will give you the freedom to take on even greater challenges because you don't think that what someone else is doing diminishes in any way what you are doing or belittles what you've done. You're going to run better. And like I said, you're going to be more confident, not just as a runner, but as a person. And I'll tell you what, we need more confident people out there because more confident people out there lead to more confident people out there. And I want to live in a world where everyone understands that there's more than enough room on the starting line for everybody. And we can all run our best when we're running our best together. So that's what this is about. And was I fired up? Of course I was fired up because guess what? I'm in a hotel room in Minneapolis. So anyway, that's the episode. There should be a Mindset Minute this week, but Coach Tammy is in Oregon. I'm in Minneapolis, and you know what? I'm very limited in my technology. So next week, maybe we'll do like Mindset Minutes. Ooh, maybe we'll do 2 of them. Who knows? And I'm hoping to get a 2 Coach Bennett's Talking podcast with Coach Tammy about the Olympics so we can nerd out about that. But let me just tell you, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for subscribing, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Honestly, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. And I'm going to ask for a little favor here. Can you please share this episode? Share the episode wherever you want, share it. And if you tag me, I'll share that you shared it because I think this episode is massively important. Whether they are a runner or not, whether they're 15, 55, or 85, this matters. This matters. So share it and make sure you tag me so I can share it myself, that you shared it, and then we're just going to keep sharing, and sharing is caring and all that good stuff. So until next time, make sure you take care of yourself, make sure you take care of each other, and I will meet you on the next starting line. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast today. And if you're not already following or subscribed to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening, well, I really wish you would, because it helps a lot. Also, check out the show notes, because you'll find a link to Coach Bennett's newsletter, as well as all the social media sites that I'm on. Places like Threads and Facebook and Instagram and Mastodon and YouTube, and even the artist formerly known as Twitter. Whatever that dumpster fire is called today, you'll find a link to it, because I'm on there. Thank you so much again for listening, and until next time, take care of yourself.